I saw Bryce Young get on the field after the game, and he was interviewed, and they said, "Bryce, tell us about your victory." And he says, "First of all, glory to God." And I thought, well, shoot, if I'm making $1 million in name, image, and likeness, I'd be giving glory to God too.
I hate Florida. This is the third Saturday in October podcast where we we are the SEC tailgate podcast for the rest of us. I surprised my co-host Chris with that one, but it's true. I am Tennessee Bradley. I'm here with Alabama Chris. It's week 4. We're into true SEC schedule season where it's you get fewer games a week, but you get more SEC matchups. We've got a little bit of news, but a lot of just thinking about what could be with Texas and Oklahoma coming over from the Big 12. What's the Big 12 going to look like? When do we think Texas and Oklahoma are going to start playing in the SEC? We may have some more clues to the puzzle now, but welcome back, Chris. How you doing?
Man, I'm good.
Sorry to surprise you with that news.
No, that was a crack up, man. I love that. Yeah, again, I'm not the biggest Florida fan either, and we barely scraped by. I would have been singing that in chorus with you had they topped Alabama last week. But yeah, this is a little hard stretch having Alabama and then Tennessee. So yeah, we get a lot of Florida on this show for the next couple of, or at least these last couple of days and next couple of days. But man, I'm pumped. We're here. It's week 4. It always, I get to this point in the season when SEC play starts really heating up, and I'm like, what have I been anxious about with football coming? Because isn't football always here? Because now I have 3 games in the past, and I've got another 8 or 9 games in the future, and I'm in the middle of the season and loving it. But it's funny how once the season starts, it just starts flying by. I can't believe we're already in week 4.
Yeah, it's really moving fast. Things are moving, things are shaking. Plus, there's so much upheaval with all these conference realignments.
Yeah,
it's just a big mess. So let's just jump straight in to this week's episode. I was actually talking to a friend of mine just yesterday about the new Big 12. So we all know Texas and Oklahoma are going to be joining the SEC. I don't believe it's going to be next season like a lot of us had hoped, because the SEC just dropped their 2022 schedule. And outside of Alabama playing Texas in week 2, there's no Oklahoma, there's no Texas in there. They were not included in any of those teams. So we'll have to see when that actually happens. But what's the Big 12 going to look like? Because they just invited BYU, Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Houston to be a part of their conference going forward. BYU joining for the 2023 season. Then Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Houston, it's still unknown, but they will be there by the 2024 season.
So it's possible that they may join with BYU, but at this point, it is at least they will be there in 2024 in July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So BYU may join a year earlier, but that makes the new Big 12 after Oklahoma and Texas leave: Baylor, BYU, Central Florida, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Houston, Oklahoma State, Texas Christian, Texas Tech, and West Virginia.
Wow.
I was talking with my buddy, what does this do for the Big 12? And they took a hit when Nebraska and Colorado left. And so the Big 12 at times kind of got left out of the major conferences because it was at that point it's just Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's been the powerhouse in that conference since then, pretty much. I feel like the Power Five are becoming the Power Four with the ACC, SEC, Big Ten, and Pac-12. Then you've got your Power Five. And in between that, I feel is where the Big 12 is kind of going to fit in, because who are the heavy hitters in this? I mean, Iowa State's doing pretty well right now. Cincinnati's doing really well. But still, they're on the outside looking in for the most part.
Yeah. I'm seeing something here, just like as we talk about these and look at the new teams coming in. I think more than trying to necessarily represent itself as part of the power or the Power Five conferences, I'm looking at this as almost like a power grab for recruiting, because used to the Big 12 was kind of the West Midwest conference. And then the Big Ten was kind of like the East Midwest conference. And you had the SEC conference, and the Pac-10 was far west coast of the country. But now, I mean, with some of these other teams leaving, like Colorado and Nebraska, and then soon Oklahoma and Texas, that takes away big core. But what they're putting in there are teams way outside of that geographical territory. So you've got a team from Florida, you've got a team from Utah, which is essentially West Coast Pac-12, like you got a little inroad there. And then you have Cincinnati, which is Ohio, huge football recruiting. And then another Houston.
And on the edge of Kentucky, which is SEC territory. So they're getting Big Ten and SEC territory kind of all at once.
Yeah. So this looks like a strategic move for recruiting, so that maybe you don't see this for a couple of years when all these teams come in here, but the amount of students that they will be able to recruit at a higher level down the line, it may take it may take the Big 12, if it's still in existence, to a higher stratosphere long term, because it covers so much of the country now. Because you have Florida, which is a major recruiting state, Utah taking kind of that West Coast major recruiting, Ohio major recruiting, and yet another school from Texas. So I think that this is an interesting move by them.
Yeah, I do too. The reason that the SEC added Texas A&M and Missouri were to expand its TV viewership.
Yes.
Get more money, because now you're expanding into other markets. Big 12 a little bit did that with West Virginia. I'm not sure. And outside Brad Paisley, I don't know a lot of West Virginia fans. Not saying that I know Brad Paisley by any means. He's just the only West Virginia fan of which I know. Adding Utah, Florida, Ohio, Kentucky, that all brings in new TV markets to the Big 12. I don't know. What'll be interesting is seeing what kind of games to be relevant in the playoff picture.
Yeah.
My buddy Josh was saying either they need to expand the playoffs so that the Big 12 can get in, or you've got to run the table and have some really strong out of conference games. You've got to, you can't schedule cupcakes in this conference. You're going to have to schedule playing, whether it's, a Pac-12 team like Oregon or USC, or right now UCLA, or go to the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC. You're going to have to find somebody to play, and you're going to have to win, even if it's not in convincing fashion. You're just going to have to win and run the table in your conference. Run the table the whole way. Be undefeated. So I see the Big 12, even as a former Baylor student. I do love my Baylor Bears.
Hmm.
I don't think the Big 12 can be considered Power 5 anymore. I think it's going to be Power 4.
Yeah.
And kind of intermediate 1 being the Big 12 and then Power 5. But also, I don't know what this is going to do to the Power 5. I look at this list and you know who I thought they could have added, although I don't know who they dropped. Maybe they don't add Houston because Houston doesn't bring a new TV market. Memphis. I would have added Memphis into this mix.
Because again, that's another within the SEC, kind of like Cincinnati. It's right there on the edge of SEC country.
Yeah.
Or I guess Memphis is right slap in the middle of it. It just it's its own little non-SEC school surrounded by SEC states.
Well, and for a couple of times over the last decade or two, Memphis has been voted by the press and maybe coaches as the best school at football in the state of Tennessee. Memphis high school players, some go to Memphis, a couple go to Tennessee, a lot of them go to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not too far from Memphis.
Oxford's not too far away. Yeah.
So Memphis would have been a nice deal right in the heart of SEC country. I understand Houston because you're almost trying to gobble up all the Texas schools because you've got Baylor, you've got Texas Tech,
TCU coming,
yeah. Adding Houston makes sense geographically, but if you're trying to get another market, trying to get some recruiting, they're good players that come out of Memphis.
That's true.
I don't know. I think Memphis is the biggest loser in this scenario, though, because they're still in the group of 5, not the Power 5 conference. But
you're right though. As I look at this list, this doesn't scream to me powerhouse, at least football. But again, getting Houston allows for that southern or southeastern portion of Texas to be there, because I know that that's several hours away from. Texas Christian is right outside of it's Fort Worth.
Yeah,
and then Texas Tech is more northwest Texas.
Yeah,
and then BYU,
Lubbock,
Waco. So
good old Lubbock. Yeah, here's the thing about Baylor. You meet a cute girl on campus. It's like, oh, I'm going to ask her out, and she answers with the inevitable answer, "Oh, my boyfriend goes to Texas. My boyfriend goes to Texas Tech."
Sounds like you've heard this a time or two.
And really, it's my boyfriend goes to UT. My boyfriend goes to Tech. My boyfriend goes to A&M. They drop the Texas off of it because
I see. Yeah.
Texas is so big. But
it's kind of like when I lived out in California. If you're going to say I was going to go up the freeway or up the interstate, you don't say Interstate 65. You just say 65. You drop off that other part. Yeah. We all know what we're talking about. Go take the 405 to the 110. You'll get there.
That sounds like an SNL skit. I've been reading too much about the NFL in this morning, so
right.
My abbreviations, it's the UBY. I mean BYU. But yeah, I don't know. I think good on the Big 12 for going and getting some teams.
Yeah.
So that they can have kind of a full conference again. However, it doesn't sound like you're upgrading. Look, Cincinnati's been on a roll lately. Houston puts together some good seasons. BYU has been ranked recently. UCF, Scott Frost built them up. Josh Heupel kind of kept the train going. We'll see what happens to UCF. So it's not like they're adding terrible teams, at least football wise. So
yeah, to me, this just screams kind of media markets for more viewership
yeah,
and recruiting,
yeah.
which I think that in this day and age, that's what conferences are trying to do anyway. It's a power grab. It's a money grab. It's all those things. They're attempting to spread this out, and it looks like, I can't recall off the top of my head what time zone that BYU is in, but it looks like even if it is in Mountain Time Zone, you're covering 3/4 of the time
Ooh,
zones in the country.
I didn't
So
think
just
about
that kind
that.
of, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, you're spread out. You can, you start watching. You have an early game with who is it? Central Florida on the East Coast, and then you're still watching Big 12 football later that night when BYU's taking on a West Coast team or something. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential here. But again, powerhouse football programs, I'm not seeing many of those. So I think that you do have a good point there.
Yeah, I think this is a bigger win for BYU, Central Florida, Cincinnati,
Totally.
and to a little extent Houston, because now you get access to Texas recruits for those three schools. Houston gets the advantage of bumping up a conference. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in 2023 and into 2024 with realignment. Yeah.
One last thought there is, I like the Houston thing is a little puzzling to me too, but I wonder if they can say like, no. If you want to come play for the Big 12, we have the most representation of major colleges in Texas. And Texas is such a huge state. It's such a fertile recruiting ground for teams. It's like maybe it's important to have a hold in the state of Texas, where the SEC in a few years can claim that they are in Texas, but they have two teams versus the Big 12. It's like, hey, I mean, you can see at least 2-3 games and not even leave the state here. And that's not the case if you go to the SEC. Most of the time, you're going to be playing somewhere down in southeast part of the country, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that is recruiting and then also media rights to the whole area of Houston.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
A lot of interesting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Big 12 definitely could have done worse.
True.
So we'll just see how that plays out.
Yeah.
So looking back at week 3, let's go through some scores. Tennessee Tech, Tennessee won 56-0. I was actually surprised by this.
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Because the Tennessee that I'm used to would probably win like 27-0, 35-3. Anytime you pitch a shutout, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. That's good.
It feels good. Yeah.
And so I was pleasantly surprised. Good confidence builder going into Florida. But it's still Tennessee Tech, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Alabama, Florida, just starting off with our two teams. Alabama squeaks one out in the swamp against Florida. This may be the best case scenario for Tennessee fans, simply because a lot of the talk is, does that give us a shot because Florida came so close? They're so disheartened. That's just really draining. It's more draining than a thumping. So does that, combined with Tennessee's confidence after winning 56-0, does that set up the opportunity for an upset?
Yeah.
In the swamp.
Mindset wise. Yeah.
I don't know, but somebody did say, referencing Steve Spurrier, saying you can't spell citrus without a U and a T. You also can't spell upset without a U and a T. I cannot take credit for that. The Twitter sphere came up with that one. But
love that.
Chris, do you have any fingernails left? How is your heart after that 31-29 win?
Well, again, if those of you watching or listening right now listen to my Monday morning quarterback, I was saying how my son and I both felt like we were doing the team a disservice by being at Buffalo Wild Wings. The minute that we got there, Alabama started trending downward. And the minute that we left, we somehow squeezed out a win. So we were totally in our superstitious mindset. But it is interesting that the times that they were playing poorly, or at least not up to championship football, or we just need to win this game on a Saturday, was the time that we were sitting down at Buffalo Wild Wings. So we got out of there quickly, but still had a good time. They don't have many nails left because of that experience. But I will say that the game was, I didn't think the game would have this huge chasm. I always like it when Alabama plays well, but Alabama is such a young team that I think that if they weren't Alabama, they probably wouldn't be ranked number one right now. They're my favorite team. I love them. I don't want to talk bad about them, but they are so young that if they had not had the name and the cachet that goes along with being Alabama, I think that they'd be probably sitting in the top 10. But they would probably not be given the benefit of the doubt that they will turn into a championship caliber team, because they certainly didn't look like it for almost 3 quarters on Saturday's game. So I expected the game to be close, but it certainly is one of those, even though I expected it not to be this huge blowout by Alabama, especially after, they started off on a 21-3 run in like the first quarter or something.
Yeah.
That it was nerve-wracking, even though I knew it was going to be a good game, or at least I assumed it was going to be a good game. It still is nerve-wracking when you get that close to a team taking you down, sort of thing. So I wasn't necessarily surprised with the outcome, although I was nervous for the whole game. So that's where I was nervous. One of the surprises that I did see that I really liked was Arch Manning took a visit to the Georgia game. Man, there was even a whole student section painted up, "We want Arch." So they're in full mode of trying to pull in a new Manning brother to the SEC, or Manning DNA to the SEC. But I know that Arch has several meetings with several other teams from the SEC now. Georgia was his first. So this is going to be exciting recruiting for this. But I think that when it comes down to it, at least for my money, Arch is probably not going to go anywhere other than at least a team in the SEC. Do you agree with that assessment?
I would agree. Although I'm going to have to look this up. Was it Pat McAfee that asked Peyton Manning on Monday night during the Monday night football broadcast?
Yeah.
I think he asked Peyton, "Where is Arch going?" And Peyton gave an answer. It can't be real, because Arch hasn't announced where he's going, and Peyton doesn't let those things slip either.
Yeah. I feel like I remember him having a conversation about that. And I don't remember his answer though.
I'm trying to remember West Virginia.
Oh, that's right. Cause that's Pat
he said Arch is heading to West Virginia.
Right. There we go.
So, just wanted to pave his own way kind of thing, but I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I think that with the history of the Mannings, Archie at Ole Miss, and then Peyton at Tennessee, and Eli at Ole Miss, that there's such SEC ties to that. And I think that even the Manning family are from the Louisiana, maybe even New Orleans area. So I think that that's where they have their full-time residence, at least Archie and his wife. So it just seems like that Arch Manning should pick an SEC team, but much like when Peyton chose Tennessee over Ole Miss to be his own man, maybe Arch looks at this and says, I need to go somewhere like Ohio State or to USC or somewhere like that to blaze my own trail and get out of the shadows of these other guys.
No, Arch, go to Vandy. Make Vandy a good team. Or,
yes, please,
dude, if Sam Pittman gets him to go to Arkansas, it's over. There is a new standard in the West. I don't know where he's going to go. Going back to the Alabama-Florida game, earlier this season, Nick Saban made comment to the media, and I don't know if it was at SEC Media Days or it may have been in a different press conference leading up to the season. He was worried about his team's mental stamina. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's like, these guys, they're not used to losing. And he was kind of alluding to there's a little bit of a cockiness in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I think a scare like this may be, if you're an Alabama fan wanting Alabama to repeat, this may be exactly what the coach ordered. This may be exactly what little Nicky wanted to kind of wake up his team, get them going again. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Alabama come out swinging for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that most of these guys, they're at Alabama, so there's a certain cachet that goes along with that. They also are just coming off of a national championship season, but so much of the starters now weren't necessarily starting this time last year. And so it's like, yeah, I'm sure that you think that you're big bad stuff since you're at Alabama, but this particular team, our 2021 version, hasn't proven anything yet. Kind of thing. So using that for fodder, which leads me to Lane Kiffin this week, basically saying on Twitter, like, everybody stop giving Saban stuff that he can go and improve his team with. Like, please stop giving him this ammunition to go and use for his team for motivation. And I think that that's not only funny, but I think that there's some truth to that too.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that.
And this is getting a little off topic, but former Alabama players have bought into this Saban mindset. You look at what Derrick Henry's doing to defensive backs in the NFL, it's just a dirty stiff arm. If you have not already, you need to follow Corked Bats on social media. I think it's at Corked Bats on Twitter. I believe it's at Corked Bats 2 on Instagram, because they got blocked on Instagram. Their account was shut down. So the sequel is every bit as good as the original on Instagram. They're also on Facebook. But the Titans play the Colts on Sunday, and the Colts have a DB talking smack about other DBs not wanting to tackle Derrick Henry. Well, last time this happened, I believe it was Earl Thomas saying, it looks like those other guys just don't want to tackle Derrick Henry. We want to tackle Derrick Henry. Then King Henry himself goes out in, I believe, a playoff game and stiff arms Earl Thomas so that he spins around and turns him into a blocker, stiff arms him again as a blocker. and I believe that was a touchdown run. So is history repeating itself? We sure hope so here in Titans country. But yeah, don't say stuff like that to Nick Saban. And you're not saying it to him, you're saying it about him. Don't let him hear it. Don't let Alabama players hear it. Don't let former Alabama players hear it. They know how to use that to their advantage. But anyways, more scores. Auburn just barely fell to Penn State. Auburn should have won. Execute on a couple more plays, maybe have some questionable calls go the other way, and you win that one. Very impressive for Brian Harsin, first year at Auburn, going and competing with Penn State, who looks to be a pretty good team. Georgia. Go ahead.
Oh, quickly on that one, really quick. That was my game. That's my game of the year so far.
Yeah,
that was such a fun night of football to watch. It was so cool to see the whiteout. The energy at the game was great. The game itself was it was a good game. And I just come off this literal nail biter with Alabama and Florida. And so to flush out the anxiety of that experience and just sit down and watch an amazing football game, it was perfect. It was my game of the year so far, because I just enjoyed it so much. But I think that Auburn is kind of in a similar state of Florida, that they lost, but nobody is coming back and saying anything about Auburn or Florida other than great job, great work, kind of thing, like a valiant effort. Yeah.
Teams look better than we expected. Georgia took care of business against South Carolina, 40-13. A&M shut out New Mexico, 34-0. Kentucky struggle win against Chattanooga, I definitely lost that pick. 28-23. Missouri took care of Southeast Missouri State 59-28. Arkansas.
I didn't watch that game, but I was a little concerned to see that Southeast Missouri State scored 28 on that one. I'm wondering if that's showing Eli and the Missouri defense needs some improvement.
Yeah, I don't remember when Missouri ever had a defense, though. They've
true.
always been about scoring points. It's just the Big 12 way. You can take the Missouri out of the Big 12. You can't take the Big 12 out of Missouri. Arkansas going all Big 12 on Georgia Southern 45-10. And then the team that I think should have joined the Big 12, Memphis.
There you go.
Beat Mississippi State 31-29. The Pirate done got pirated there. Oops. Then LSU beat Central Michigan 49-21. Again, defense, you're letting Central Michigan score 21.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, who was a 2-touchdown favorite over Tulane, won by 40, 61-21. And in the Brain Bowl, Stanford beat Vanderbilt 41-23. I think biggest surprises for me was Florida hanging in there with Alabama, Auburn hanging in there with Penn State, Memphis beating Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I picked Memphis in our Pick'em League, but still surprised me. And Ole Miss, there's just no slowing down that offense, at least not yet.
Yeah. They are pretty dominant. Yeah, I've seen several stats, and Ole Miss is up there offensively, just in yards and everything, passing yards, rushing yards, yards, period. I was a little, that Kentucky win was too close for comfort, in my opinion. And then that LSU score, that's something that it actually leads into when I make my picks for this week. That score gave me a lot of information that made me pick the way that I did for that. So I'll catch you up when we get to that point. But that LSU Central Michigan game, it's a head scratcher, even though it looked like a pretty dominant win when you look at it just on paper.
Yeah. Well, speaking of picks, last week, Josh coming in as the winner.
Oh, nice.
It was decided by one pick. So he won by one. It was a very close call. But congratulations, Josh. We'll get your third Saturday in October sticker to you as soon as I reorder them. I got to reorder those things. Well, I gave too many of them away. So let's get to this week's picks. I'm going to have to look at this. There we go. So we're going to start with Georgia, a 35-point favorite at Vanderbilt. This is the early game, the 11 o'clock kickoff. I'm going with Georgia. I think they've got an offense, a very good offense, but that defense is stellar, and it's Vanderbilt.
Yeah. I mean, with Vanderbilt losing by 18 to Stanford the other day, and it looks worse than that. Again, 41-23, maybe only 18 points, but it looks much different than that. And then Stanford is not near the team that Georgia is,
Right.
And so I don't even know if Vanderbilt will get on the scoreboard this game. I could see that stout Georgia defense keeping them to a big old goose egg. So I'm easily picking Georgia, even though that point spread is humongous.
Yeah. Stanford may not be Georgia on the football field, but Georgia is not Stanford in the classroom.
That's true.
LSU, a 2.5-point favorite at Mississippi State. I'm going with Mississippi State.
Ooh. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is one of those that the score from last week really informed this week for me. Again, it's Central Michigan with LSU. Maybe they're better than I give them credit for. I was shocked with the 21 points that Central Michigan was able to put on the board. and I know that LSU is favored in this game, but by only that small margin. I'm picking LSU, even though I could absolutely see Mississippi State taking this one because I think that LSU has gone down, and I'm still question marked like I was this time last year, maybe the last couple of years with Mississippi State. I don't know. They were confusing to me. I think Mississippi State in the West and Kentucky in the East for me are those two teams that I can't seem to get a read on accurately. But even with that, I say that maybe LSU ekes this out, but only because I feel like Mississippi State should have had a better showing last week against Memphis. So I'm picking LSU, but I don't have any confidence in it.
Yeah, it's basically all I'm going on is remembering what Mississippi State did to LSU last year. That's all I'm basing it on.
That's certainly,
we've got Missouri, a 1.5 point favorite up in Boston at Boston College. I'm going with Missouri. I don't know anything about Boston College this year. But I'm picking the SEC.
Yeah, that me too. Again, with that kind of point spread, I feel like that I could almost pick that as a straight up call because to get between 1.5 points to give it to Boston unless they outright win, which I don't think they're going to do. So I'm picking Missouri kind of easily, but just because that spread's so thin.
Yeah. Then we've got
like a weak peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The spread is just too thin.
Oh yeah, and in my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, if the peanut butter's not as thick as the bread,
oh yeah,
it's not right.
Got to make it a meal.
Yeah, Texas A&M 4.5 points at Arkansas. I believe in Sam Pittman. I'm going with Arkansas on this one.
Me too.
High hopes for Texas A&M going into the season, and I'm a little more nervous. Mm-hmm. Low expectations for Arkansas, only because I didn't think that they would be looking this competitive this quickly. I thought in a couple more years when Sam Pittman's got his guys in there, but the guys that were there are Sam Pittman's guys, and he's doing well with them. So I'm going with Arkansas. I think to outright win against Texas A&M.
I'm actually doing the same. Outright win, picking Arkansas. And the thing for me is Texas A&M is the team that I chose at the beginning of the season that was going to give Alabama the biggest run for its money in the SEC West. And now I'm looking at it and thinking like, maybe that's Ole Miss. Maybe that's not Texas A&M at all. And it comes down to like a sad reality which is I would have figured by week 4, Texas A&M would have had that quarterback situation figured out because of the quarterback injury and then some lackluster offensive line play. And then with some really good Arkansas defensive play, I think that Arkansas has a chance to take them down if their defense can really put pressure on that offensive line, which makes the backup quarterback not able to perform at that level. And things could really start to unravel from there. So from my perspective, I think Arkansas can actually win this, even though at preseason I picked Texas to maybe be Alabama's only loss and to possibly go to the SEC championship if the divisional lineup stuff lined up that way. So I'm picking Arkansas with excitement, even though I'm concerned for A&M and which direction they're going to go. But we'll find out a lot on Saturday.
Yeah, like the old Peyton Manning commercial. They're not saying boo, they're saying movers. Texas A&M, they're not saying boo, they're saying Jimbo.
Jimbo. That's our only non-SEC, or I'm sorry, ESPN/SEC network game. That's going to be the CBS game of the week there at, 2:30 that they always play that game, which is fun. I love that game. I love that it's usually an SEC team. But then other than that, I'm going to keep my ESPN app. Oh, you know what? I've got a little different game day plan that I'll reveal in a few minutes, but this would be a perfect day to just keep that grid going with 4 different SEC games going on at the same time.
Week 1, there was no SEC on CBS game. I was confused because I was like, wait, the deal doesn't run out yet. But it was great being able to watch everything on my ESPN app. And so I missed that. But moving on, Georgia State at Auburn. Auburn, a 27.5-point favorite. Brian Harsin is getting his team ready to play no matter who the competition is. They are not playing down to the level of competition that they're facing on the field. I'm going with Auburn to cover on this one against Georgia State.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it myself. That's a great analysis of that. And I'm also picking Auburn with that. Are we in lockstep at this point? Have we chosen anything other than Georgia, LSU, Missouri, Arkansas, and Auburn? That's what I have.
I went with Mississippi State.
That's right. That's right. Okay, good.
So
at least we have a little competition there.
Yeah. Then Kentucky, 5-point favorite at South Carolina. I'm going with Kentucky. I think they bounce back. South Carolina lost, 45-10 to Georgia last week.
Yeah.
South Carolina's not shown me anything yet to really scare me. I think Kentucky's got a slim spread here just because of how they looked last week. But I think what we saw earlier in the season is the truer form of Kentucky. I think they cover here.
Just to make the game between you and I for Pick'em interesting, I'm going to go with South Carolina here. And I can't even really logically tell you why, other than the fact that Kentucky team, I have undervalued when I should have overvalued them, and I have overvalued them when I should have undervalued them. It seems like that Kentucky never is something that I can put my finger on, like I said a few minutes ago. So I'm going to go against reason here and pick Shane Beamer and South Carolina. I don't know to win this one, but to keep it a close game. I could be way off, but at least it'll make fun, interesting watching on Saturday.
Well, you are Timothy B. Schmidt of the Eagles. I can't tell you why. Then we've got our two teams playing the later games at 6 Central, 7 Eastern. Tennessee at Florida. Florida, a 19-point favorite. I hope I'm wrong. I'm going with Florida to cover. Even after that draining loss, it's still hate week, even though Florida has owned us pretty much for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I think they're able to get up for this game in playing in the swamp. I don't know. I'm going with Florida to cover.
Yeah. Being in the swamp, also coming off that loss last week to Alabama. I like your assumption earlier that maybe with Florida losing last week, that would have deflated them a little bit. With Tennessee having such a big win, maybe they've got that momentum. That's what I hope. I would love to see Tennessee at least take care of the spread, if not outright win this. It would be a great upset. I don't know that it's going to happen. So I'm also picking Florida, sadly.
And then Southern Miss at Alabama. Alabama, a 45-point favorite. This is tough. Coming off a win, but a slim win against Florida. How does Alabama respond? I'm going with Southern Miss only because I think something late happens to where Alabama doesn't cover. I think they still win by 40 points, but whether it's a late field goal or something to cover the spread, I'm going with Southern Miss.
I think that's wise. I actually am only picking Alabama to cover this 45-point spread because at heart, sometimes I have a bad feeling about choosing against Alabama. So I'm not doing what I feel like is logical. I'm doing what I'm doing as a pure fan decision that I'm picking Alabama with this. But I think that the spread could actually, at the end of the game, be something like 42 points or 43 points. But I don't know if it goes over that 45. But having said that, Bryce Young I think he'll go over 1,000 yards passing this weekend. I think he's got 10 touchdowns right now. And I think that he goes for another, I'll say 4 pass touchdowns. That's my assumption. So I think he'll have a really good game, but I think it's going to be somewhere around 35-7 or so around halftime, which at that point, when you're playing a team like a Mercer or a Georgia Southern or something like that, usually the starter comes in and plays one series in the third quarter. And then after that, they put in the other guys. And
Yeah.
so I think that we will probably take Bryce Young out at around 42-7, something like that. And then we'll see what our backups can do to either keep Georgia Southern from scoring or to keep putting points on the board for Alabama. So I think that spread is going to be just under that, but I'm picking Alabama anyway because I'm such a fanboy.
Yeah, that it's that, Tua goes and plays the first series. You bench him so that Jalen Hurts can get a little bit of work. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
I totally get it. So those are our picks for week 4. They are in.
Good.
Now it's everybody's favorite time of the week. It's time to pregame.
Pregame.
Tailgate, pancake, living room, pregame, burgers, ribs, chicken wings, chip and dip, pregame, scotch and a lot of IPA, Coca-Cola, pregame, slaying darts, E08, cornhole, pregame. How you gonna watch?
Chris, last week you went to Buffalo Wild Wings. It was not pretty when you were there. So what are you doing this week instead?
This week, I'm actually going to be out of town. And so I'm going to be watching a lot of score updates via my phone and then using my YouTube TV app or my ESPN app on my phone to watch some of the games. But I'm going to be down in Miami for the weekend for a little weekend getaway.
Ooh, yeah.
So I will be occupied for most of the day on Saturday, but that does not mean that I'm not going to keep catching scores, because I'm addicted to this and I can't not know what's going on in real time. So even though I won't be on my couch or at Buffalo Wild Wings this week in hometown mode, I'm still going to keep my mind going, even if I'm looking at the sights of South Beach.
Well, just wear Alabama gear.
There you go.
Even though
Absolutely.
Miami's a dangerous town, there's nothing in Miami that can hurt Alabama, it seems. So
not even the Hurricanes.
Yeah, not even the Hurricanes. So
well, maybe I shouldn't wear that Alabama jersey or Alabama stuff then. If I'm in Miami Hurricanes area, I may get a couple of leers or jeers or being yelled at me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nothing can. You saw the game earlier in the year. There's nothing they can do to hurt or scare Alabama.
True.
So I think you'll be safe. Probably safer wearing the crimson and white than you would be otherwise. 6:00 kickoff. My boy loves watching football. So
yes,
I hope it's not too long of a game so that he's not up way late. But it's a weekend. It's so tough trying to put him to bed at night anyways. Hopefully we wear him out watching the game. And then he goes down easy right after. And I may be watching a lot of football. Like you, I may be watching a lot on my phone. It depends on what he and I get into this weekend. Kind of try to let mama rest as we are now in the 3rd trimester. It's a lot of daddy-son time on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you're about to be in the 3rd trimester in October, so it ties in with our podcast
right
as well.
Which, speaking of which, when the SEC schedule was released, what did I look for first? When is the 3rd Saturday in October game being played? It's going to be played on the 3rd Saturday in October. Ooh. Once again, finally, how hard. This is just a testament.
It doesn't seem like it should be that hard. Yeah.
The emphasis in the South is not on the student part of student athlete. That's why whoever does the scheduling for the SEC can't count to 3. Or maybe they go 1, 2, 3, 3 again, 3 one more time. Maybe they can't count to 4. So maybe that's the issue. But 3rd Saturday in October being played on the 3rd Saturday in October in 2022
will be nice.
We can't wait. So if you want to make your picks, go to 3rd Saturday in October.com, where you can also get our tailgating 101 cheat sheet. You can be part of our virtual tailgate as well. You want to see me stress, bite my nails, pull my hair out? Yeah, I'll probably be bald for my Monday morning quarterback. Join us. You can find those links over at 3rd Saturday in October.com, along with links to social media. Go find us on Facebook. There's also a group attached to our Facebook page, the Tailgate Crew. It's not a lot of trash talk. We don't believe in that. We just keep it light and fun. The Tailgate Crew for the third Saturday in October. It's a big weekend of football, SEC play. I'm really excited, but also I hate Florida. And with that, I'm going to sign off with a roll Vols.
Well, it's hard to argue with you there, so I'm going to do that and also say, roll balls, baby!